Today we're looking at two seemingly unrelated little pieces of the Sermon on the Mount. And as a means of intro, I'm just going to read Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 21 from the ESV. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So in that little introduction, we have sort of two issues at hand. We're told that you can store up your treasure in two different places. You can either store up treasure in heaven or you can store up treasure in earth. And if you look at the outcomes, one is clearly spun as a positive and one as a negative. Treasure stored up on earth is subject to corruption and theft. Treasure stored up in heaven is not subject to corruption and theft. And then also he says, don't miss out on the importance of this dichotomy, because whichever one you choose, wherever your treasure is, that's where your heart will be. That brings us to the two little passages we're looking at today. First is in chapter 6, verse 22 and 23. This is my translation of it. The lamp or light of the body is the eye. If your eye should be single, simple, or unmixed, your whole body shall be illuminated. But if your eye should be bad or evil, your whole body shall be darkness. If then the light in you be darkness, how great that darkness. So do you see the parallel from the little introductory passage? We get another dichotomy, right? We're told about light and dark, and we're told that if you have a single, simple, or unmixed eye, if that's the nature of your vision, your whole body will be filled with lightness. But if you have a bad eye or an evil eye, poneros, then your whole body will be filled with darkness. And then for emphasis, he says, if that's the case, how great is that darkness? These two things are not parts of a spectrum. We're looking at, again, dichotomy, good and evil, light and dark, heaven and earth, things that are opposites, not the same thing. So let's look at those words quickly that he used for the kind of eye a person can have. One is oplus and the other is poneros. So oplus is single or unmixed, something that I wish that it was more of adjectival form, so we could say it was a singular vision. But he says if your eye is single, if your eye be single or unmixed, simple, something that's not complex, then because it's the lamp or light of your body, your whole body will be filled with light. That'll be the case. But if your eye is the opposite of single, simple, unmixed, he says poneros, bad or evil, faulty, usually about a body part, it means, ineffectual, not working right. If that's the kind of eye you have, then you won't be filled with light, you'll be filled with darkness. A bad eye can't see well. As a man talking to you with contact lenses in, I can attest to the fact that with bad eyes, you just can't see well. You need some corrective, you need something that brings your eye to focus out of that blurriness in order for your eyes to be effective. And that's what Jesus tells in this little chunk of the Sermon on the Mount. To be filled with light requires a simple, singular, unmixed, focused eye. If you have a blurry eye, the result is going to be darkness. Think about human beings. We are sight hunters. How do we know that we're sight hunters? Because we have our eyes fixed to the front in stereo vision so that we can judge depth, so that we can track things accurately. We're really, really good at focusing on one thing at a time. One of my hobbies is photography, and a good photograph is said to have one subject, one thing in the picture that draws the eye to it. There are always going to be other things in the picture, but they tend to distract from the important thing. That's the way human vision works. We focus on one thing. Take a second right now look around the room and try and look at something. What you'll notice is you can focus well on one thing, and the things off in the periphery are less resolved, not as much detail, not as clear to you. You can change that focus to other things, but generally speaking, human beings, sight hunters with stereo vision to the front, can focus well on one thing at a time. It's in our nature. Ruminants, things that are grazers, gazelles, impalas, deer, rabbits, they tend to have more peripheral vision. They want to see what's coming at them so they can run and escape. That's not the nature of humans. Humans are predators who pursue through this sight hunting. Our sense of smell and hearing are not much of a help when it comes to getting food. We are sight hunters. As such, in our modern context, our eyes can lead us into unhealthy wanting. We want things that we see. Does the advertising industry understand that? I think it does, right? When we see the images that are used to entice us to buy, they know we are sight hunters and we are prone to unhealthy wanting through our vision. So back to sum up, as before we move on, Jesus says that you should store up for yourself treasure somewhere. It can either be in heaven, where it's subject not to corruption or theft, or on earth, where it is subject to corruption and theft. And whichever one you choose, wherever your treasure is, that's where your heart is going to be. Then we're told plainly, using another dichotomy, not heaven and earth, not decay and robbery versus non-decay and robbery, but light versus dark, a simple singular unmixed eye versus a faulty unfocused eye. And then we come to the conclusion that the parable is about focus. A single simple eye results in clear focus, that the outcome of which is an illuminated person. A bad eye results in a body of darkness. So then we get the capper in verse 24, again my translation. No one is able to serve two masters, for he will hate the one and love the other. He will be attached to the one and despise the other. You are not able to serve God and money or wealth. So two more dichotomies, right? We're told there are two masters, undefined masters, and then we're told exactly what Jesus is talking about, God as master or money and wealth as master. And remember, you can have treasure in heaven, God, or you can have treasure on earth, money or wealth. Whichever one you pick is where your heart will be. One is subject to corruption, the other is not. One is good, one is bad. One results in a simple focus, not trying to divert your vision into multiple places, which ends in light, the other in darkness. These dichotomies are magnificent. And then there's a really important grammatical thing that happens here. All the light talk was in the subjunctive mood, the mood of possibilities, right? If you should have a singular focus, your whole body will be light. But if you should have a bad eye, your body will be dark, and how great that darkness. He moves from the subjunctive, the realm of the possible, into the indicative, which is the mood of the stating of fact, of reality. This is the way it is. Jesus then says, in the indicative mood, this is what will happen if you attempt to serve two masters. Let's look at it in Koine. Hagar tohena misese, all right, for you will hate the one, you will hate, future indicative tense, you will hate the one, kaiton heteron agapese, or you will love the other. If you try to serve two masters, you're going to hate one and you're going to love another. Not you might hate one and you might love the other. He says in the indicative mood, you will hate the one and you will love the other. Next phrase, Hey, enos and thexetai, you will cling to the one, kai to heteru kataphronese, and you will despise the other. Kataphronese is literally, you will think down the other. So there are two things that are definitely going to happen if you try to serve two masters, Jesus says. You're going to hate one and love the other one. You're going to attach yourself to one and despise or downthink the other. That's the outcome of an attempt to serve two masters. Back to our dichotomies. Heaven and earth, a simple eye and an unsimple or a bad eye, a focused vision or an unfocused vision, light or dark, hate or love, attachment or despising. Wherever your treasure is, whether it be in heaven or on earth, you're going to find yourself, your heart is going to be with that treasure. You can't serve two masters. You can't serve God and money. You can't have treasure in heaven and treasure on earth. You can't have a focus on two things at once. Why? Because you're going to hate the one and love the other. You're going to be attached to the one and despise the other. It's not a question of if, it's not subjunctive, it's indicative, it's the reality of a divided vision. You are a sight hunter. You can't focus on two things at once. You're going to have to choose one, because to do the other is going to leave you a mess in darkness. And oh, how great that darkness, right? Because Jesus said no man can serve two masters. Doesn't matter who you are. It's not a fault particular to you. You can't do it. It can't be done. So instead, he advocates being a light-eyed loyalist with a singular focus. Great stuff. If you got something good out of that, I hope you'll leave me a little comment. Just let me know what you think. And until next time, Karis Kai Arena Humane, grace and peace to you.